Hello, my name is Susanne Justison, and I'm our lead on human sustainability at the Global Maritime Forum. And I'm very pleased to welcome you to this press briefing on the voice of young maritime leaders and how human sustainability can make the industry more attractive to the youth. With me here today, I have 4 of our essay competition winners. They will introduce themselves in a little minute or so. Before that, I would like to just say a little bit about human sustainability, which is a new strategic focus for the Global Maritime Forum community. And with human sustainability, we focus on how to make how to treat everyone along the supply chain with dignity and respect. So we're zeroing in on, of course, issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion, but also future skills and competences, human rights, human safety, and of course, human well-being. These areas were addressed in our essay competition earlier this year, where we encouraged young people below the age of 30 to submit their essays, addressing some of the needs that we need to focus on with human sustainability, and inviting them to give their view as to what needs to be addressed. We received close to 200 essays this year, and we selected 3 winners. And with us today, we also have the winner from 2020, Camille. But let me begin by asking each of you to introduce yourself. So beginning with you, Raj, will you say a little bit about who you are and where you come from and how you ended up in the maritime industry?
Of course. Thank you, Susan. So a bit about myself. Well, my full name is actually Shaharaj Ahmed. There's a bit more to that, but you can call me Raj. So I was born in the Philippines, but then I spent about 12 years in Bangladesh after I turned 7. I moved to Singapore for my undergrad degree, where I study currently at Yale-NUS College, a liberal arts college in collaboration with Yale and NUS. So I got into the maritime industry in part because I was taking this economics course where I realized, global shipping is the backbone of global trade, right? And then I also realized 25% of all seafarers, they're Filipino. And so I wanted to understand what are the working conditions of my countrymen. And so that's really what got me to apply. And 6 months later, we're here.
Thank you so much, Raj. Apurva, you want to go next?
Hi, I'm Apurva Chaubal and born in India. I currently work at Maersk Tankers in the Commercial Operations Department. I'm an Associate Voyage Manager. I'm 24 years old and I'm based out of Mumbai. In the maritime industry, I am actually an engineer, a chemical engineer by education, and I joined Maersk right out of my college. So once I graduated, I joined Maersk in their commercial operations, and Maersk actually had this 2 years training program where they wanted to take diverse talent on board, people who were not actually initially from the maritime industry, young people, and that is initially how I ended up in the maritime industry.
Thank you, Apurva. Camille, over to you.
Thanks, Suzanne. My name is Camille Simbulan from the Philippines. I work as a Special Projects and Communications Officer at the Associated Marine Officers and Seamen's Union of the Philippines. We have about 100,000 members and 5,000 of them are women. So before I joined the maritime industry, I was actually a reporter for CNN Philippines. So I covered a wide range of stories, and I covered even the war in the southern Philippines. But in every story that I cover, I always look for the women and youth stories that I could look into and, of course, report on. And the maritime industry, being a traditionally male-dominated industry in the Philippines, I tried to explore it, and I was really surprised how huge it is, and the growing interest among Filipino women to join the industry. So right now we are seeing a lot of interest among Gen Z and millennials to join the industry, and in my line of work, it's really my advocacy to empower young female cadets to really to grow and to achieve their aspirations in the male-dominated industry. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Camille. And over to you, James.
Thanks, Susan. Hi, everyone. I'm James Helliwell. I'm a project engineer from the UK, currently working for Shell Shipping and Maritime in research and development. And I lead a number of projects looking at how to introduce hydrogen and new fuels into our shipping fleet. My route into the maritime industry was started at high school. I did a 2-week work experience with a shipping company that provides logistics to the offshore industry. And it really made me realise what an exciting industry this could be. So after high school, I studied marine engineering in the UK, and then I came through the Shell graduate programme, which I've finished in 2020, and now in this role looking towards the future.
Thank you so much. And congratulations to all 4 of you for your excellent essays that helped all of us understand better what human sustainability is all about. And we were actually so excited by all of the sort of important essays that we received that in August, earlier, sort of about a month ago, we invited all of the top 30 participants plus previous winners from previous years for a discussion of what will it take to make maritime industry more attractive to the youth. And we were curious to understand what the youth were saying and what their perspective on this was. So we wanted to, especially because we are hearing a lot about that the needs from Gen Z and millennials seem to be rather different from what we're seeing is dominating in the industry as of now. So we convened this group of where all 4 of you were there, and ask them what the changes are that they are looking for. And we'll get back to them later. But before that, I want to hear from the 4 of you what you think are the changes that you would like to see for the industry to become even more or truly attractive to the future leaders of the maritime industry and the Gen Z and millennials. Do you want to go first, Rush?
Sure, I can do that. So I think one of our main asks, one of the 6 main asks, one of them was decent working conditions. And so, as a 22-year-old who's also looking to join the workforce soon, the one thing which I look at is, okay, first of all, what is the pay? I mean, motivation is one thing, but then we need to make sure that what we do is sustainable. So looking at the pay and then looking at the working conditions, primarily working hours. And so when I was looking into the maritime industry, there was this report in 2019 by the World Maritime University who found that 80% of the respondents said that they worked between 12 to 15 hours in a day, and they usually work for about 6 days a week, which is crazy if you think about it, right? And then there's also a whole barrage of payment conditions. Seafarers, they face underpayment. They even face, even their payment, can get delayed by about 6 months. And so my main ask is really making sure that your working conditions, you work about 8 hours a day for 5 days a week, making sure that you get enough rest, and also that you get paid on time and you get paid fairly. And just to make sure that there is an economic argument to this, I also delved deeper and found that in 2019, there were about 50 shipwrecks, and research found that 85% of these shipwrecks could be attributed to human error, and 10% of that could be attributed to human fatigue, directly linked to that that 12 to 15 hours a day those seafarers are working. So there is a real causal link between fatigue and these shipwrecks. So if this industry wants to continue to lose money in this way, so be it. But if we want to turn that around, turn that economic damage around, and make it a more attractive industry for my generation, then we definitely need to rework some of these working conditions. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Rise. An important link between human safety and human well-being, and of course, a natural request for decent working conditions. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Apurva?
Hi. So I work with a lot of female seafarers who have come on shore after sailing for a very long time. And when I was participating in this competition, I actually spoke to them about it. And from that, I realized that there's a big gap between diversification and inclusion. the companies, they want to promote diversity, but is the crew on board ready for inclusion? So what this generation wants, what all of us coming into the shipping industry, they want to feel included. They want to feel that they belong in this place. So the diversity and inclusion was a major point that came up even when we were talking to the other 30 people in that meeting. And with the rise of transparency in the whole industry, it also drives the people to know what the company's motivation is, what their purpose is, whether it aligns with their primary goals, with themselves, and they just want to know more whether this is the perfect place for them, whether they will feel safe, whether they will feel included over there, whether the ship owners can provide a good condition for them, like you said. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. Really important discussion as to the link between inclusion and well-being, and also related to the decent working condition. Thank you so much. Camille?
So I think that maritime workers of our generation really look for the meaning and purpose of what they're doing. And I've noticed that, the young seafarers now, they're aware how crucial the role of seafarers is in the maritime industry. They're the warm bodies, they're the lifeblood that runs these ships. And as we move towards decarbonization, automation, and digitalization, they don't want to get left behind. So they care about, how their companies are equipping them, are preparing them to move through the times. Because we know that, with the looming shortage that have been published in several studies, in 2030, we know that about 75% of the maritime workforce will be composed of millennials and Gen Z. And so these young workers, they want to feel that they are valued, that they're respected, and they want to feel inspired to, to pursue a career, to succeed in a career in the maritime industry. And during the pandemic, it became clearer that the human element, the seafarers, are really at the heart, at the core of shipping. And they're crucial in moving the basic commodities that basically feed people, that deliver medicines, and, the very important things that keep economies afloat and keep the world moving. Yeah. So I guess that's our ask is for the maritime industry to, give these young maritime workers a platform where they can voice out their concerns, where they are heard and they feel valued, respected, involved, and included in major discussions. Give them a seat at the table. Thank you.
Thank you. So both about being heard on board the vessel and in their work, whether that's at sea or on shore, but also by the global sort of community of industry leaders that are making important decisions that is likely to impact everyone, especially after 2030, where it is such a large percentage. Thank you so much. James?
Sure. My ask to our ambassadors of the maritime industry is to engage people from a much younger age. So we've met some great role models downstairs, but typically we engage people at 16 to 18 is quite a common target age for the industry. And coming from a UK education system, that's way too late to get people into the maritime sector. For myself, I was exposed to the industry at age 14, and at 15, 16, you start to choose your subjects for your sixth form. You start to choose whether to go to a maritime college or to perhaps take a different route. And if we really wanted to support young people in this industry, we need to get them at a much younger age to help them realise that there's this fantastic industry that we all work in, that there's some really exciting roles around the world that they can start to work in. But we're targeting people much too late, in my opinion. Yeah.
So this whole discussion as to the talent shortage that is being caused not only by the great resignation that's been coming from the corona pandemic, of course, but also how we're seeing that there might be a clash between the traditional values of the industry and the way that the young people that are entering the things that they're calling for. And some of the conclusions that have also been shared in our report as to what the the young people represented at the seminar, what they were calling for. You mentioned several of the issues, but I just wanted to quickly sort of go through them again. So of course, diversity, we want an industry that is representative also of all the differences across the globe that we can. It's also about inclusion. Work environments must be, as you also mentioned, inclusive to everyone. It's about flexibility, not only so to allow for work-life balance, but also to make better use of technology and digitalization. And it's also about purpose and values, as you also mentioned. Young people are asking for their career to have meaning, to have purpose, and we need to become much better at emphasizing that when trying to attract young talent. There was also a strong ask for stronger career prospects that allows for a career trajectory between sea and shore. And then, of course, the decent working conditions that you emphasized, Raj. So the calls are fairly specific, not easy to obtain, but there's a lot of conversations going on already at the summit as to how we might achieve that. And we're hoping that your young voice can be a powerful voice in that whole conversation. So now I want to open up to see if there are any questions. Sophie, yeah?
One here. The question is, what are the roadblocks to achieve what you want to achieve right now?
Who would like to?
I think it's mostly to what you spoke about, Camille, about the call for being valued and respected and included. What is hindering that the situation is what you're talking about?
Perhaps we need a stronger feedback mechanism from the workers themselves. Because, okay, for example, in my maritime union, it's been around for 6 decades, and we just established the Women and Youth Committees in 2018. So it's where women members, women seafarers can report to us about harassment and bullying they experience on board. So these challenges have been around for decades, and it's just very recently that we are, starting to open up platforms to hear their voices, to really know the realities on the ground. So I think that's something that companies can explore, to require each company to have like a gender and development department, or someone who will really focus on concerns of young people, young seafarers and women, because as you know, they are facing various issues, especially being the minority in the industry.
Thank you so much. Maybe I can also pass it on to you, Raj, because part of this is probably also about the lack of data and transparency into what are the roadblocks. And you made sort of a suggestion in your essay as to why not make use of some of the blockchain technologies to open up and for the creation of reliable data also about human sustainability issues. Do you want to maybe say a little bit about how you see that as a roadblock and how it may be facilitated by technology?
Right. So I think in the first place, with regards to not having, so first it's a really multi-headed beast per se, where there's not enough workers, so the workers need to do more work, so they end up working 12 to 15 hours a day. But then if you're not going to pay enough, you're not going to have a lot of workers coming into this industry. So there's a lot of, it's really a chicken and egg problem, right? Like, which one do you raise first? But really what my essay goes into is that, currently we have all these ships where we have seafarers working 12 to 15 hours a day. And, let's say they report it on their register, okay, I've worked 12 to 15 hours. The issue is that you have captains who know that if any of the port authorities see these registers, they're not going to let the ship go. And, as a ship's captain, obviously you want to complete your contract to get that, to get your revenue. And so you really don't want to be stopped. So in essence, what you have is an industry where you have a culture of adjustment. So these ship captains, they erase it. They say, okay, no, all of my workers, we work 8 hours a day. So instead, what I propose, instead of this public register where captains can really come in and just change it, we use blockchain where it's more of a public ledger. And so, any worker, they can come in, they can submit anonymously that, okay, I've worked about maybe 20 hours today. And so we can have investors, we can have stakeholders such as firms, or we can even have organizations such as the UN. They look at the ship and then they say, this ship has worked way too much and we need to stop it. First of all, we need to disincentivize the company from allowing their workers to operate like this. And then once it sends a stronger signal to the broader, each of the companies that we will not tolerate these types of working conditions for our seafarers, maybe then they will be incentivized to hire more, to pay better. And so that's really what my essay goes into.
Okay, thank you so much. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
All right, I'll put an idea out there. It's more of a comment. So there is this thing called ESG, which everybody knows about: environment, social, and governance. And a lot of the attention has been on the environmental part, which is fuel consumption, cleaner fuels, all those kind of things. There was a lot of talk about it, but it wasn't really till the cargo side that pays the freight got interested in it that you start to see real action and possibly, some money coming, which is what some of the discussions here at the conference are all about. The social is starting to get, some attention. You're very much in the social category. So, what I would say is just think about it in terms of, the cargo side. I mean, a gentleman mentioned blockchain. It's not too far from now that you can go into a supermarket, you can buy a box of cereal, and they'll be on the label. You could this is not my imagination. This stuff is under development. That you could see what, certainly what carrier it came on, what the rating is, and again, I'll leave it to the younger generation to figure out exactly how to do this. But the social approach, whether it's by measuring hours or other metrics of the working condition, you maybe ought to think about going in a similar direction with it.
Thank you so much. Any comments on what your hopes are for the S of social inclusivity and how that may impact and provide the transparency we need around social and labor practices? James?
Yeah, I think it ties nicely in with the essay topic I wrote. So my essay was focused on the social side of the future fuels that you talk about. The industry is looking at hydrogen, ammonia, methanol as some of the fuels of the future. And a lot of the commentary at the moment is purely around its carbon credentials and some of its physical properties, which is the easiest to get on and off a ship. There's less talk about the social impact of some of these fuels. Particularly both ammonia and hydrogen have some quite worrying, challenging safety concerns. And we have to remember that ships aren't just a means of moving things from A to B. They're also a home for 20 to 30 people for up to 6, 9, 12 months of the year. So we need to think about what the health implications of some of these future fuels are on our seafarers as well.
Yeah. Thank you. Really good point. And finding ways to actually sort of have indicators that will help us track and better understand what the practices are will be crucially important going forward. Any other questions, comments? No?
Sir, can I just add one more thing?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, this is the reason why right now we are also advocating for just transition in the maritime industry. We know that last year's COP26, the Maritime Just Transition Task Force was launched, and right now we are undergoing a series of meetings and trying to figure out things like the new green skills that the seafarers would need to be able to keep up with the transition to a greener shipping. So I guess it's one of the things that the industry should be actively engaging in. like this Just Transition Maritime Task Force, where all the stakeholders have a seat at the table.
Yeah, and it's not just a matter of developing safe fuel types also for the people on board, but also finding ways to make sure that everyone have the skills required to deal with that in a safe manner, so that safety and well-being is closely connected on a vessel going forward, and increasingly so. Then thank you so much to all four of you for offering your perspectives. I hope you will also want to have a look at the report so that we can have even more voices from Gen Z and millennials included in the debate of how to make the industry more humanly sustainable going forward, and how to include the young voices in that conversation. So thank you so much to the four of you, and thank you to you for being here.
Thank you.